What happens when a CEO walks into one of his own stores and catches a cashier pulling money out of their own pocket for a total stranger? Shane Dorsey had built his 15-store convenience chain from the ground up. Started with one dusty corner shop in Ohio, now spread across 3 states. He used to know every shelf, every regular, every employee. But with growth came layers: district managers, store managers, reports that sounded fine on paper but felt hollow. Lately, customer complaints had been trickling in, not about a specific incident, just a sense that something feels off in Store 8, just outside Pittsburgh. Tired of filtered updates and vague summaries, Shane decided to go check it out himself quietly. He shaved his beard, dyed his salt and pepper hair black, swapped his usual tailored coat for a faded hoodie and jeans. The name tag read Kyle. He told the district manager he was sending a new temp for training first shift cashier, nothing fancy. He'd never met the staff in Store 8 personally. No one there would recognize him. The store wasn't chaotic, but something felt off. The lighting was a little dimmer than the others. A few shelves were disorganized, but it was the manager, Lyle, that really stood out loud, always behind the counter on his phone, barely looking up when customers walked in. "Hey, new guy," Lyle said, tossing Shane a set of keys. "Your register too, don't screw it up." Shane nodded, slipping behind the counter. For most of the day, he scanned snacks, drinks, and gas cards. The other cashier, a young woman named Morgan Givens, handled the steady flow of customers with quiet efficiency. She had long, curly hair tied back, clear blue eyes, and a way of making customers feel seen even if they barely looked at her. Around 5 in the evening, an older man in a heavy coat shuffled in. He looked worn out, his hands shaking as he placed a loaf of bread, canned soup, and a bottle of water on Morgan's counter. He reached into his wallet and froze. "Sir, he muttered, fumbling through crumpled bills. "I thought I had." Morgan didn't hesitate. "It's okay," she said softly. "Don't worry about it. I got it." Shane watched as she slid her own debit card through the reader. The man's eyes widened. "I can come back tomorrow." "It's okay. Eat tonight," she said, smiling gently. "Be safe out there." He nodded, eyes glassy, and walked out slowly. Shane's stomach turned. Not because she paid, but because of how natural it looked like it wasn't the first time. Lyle yelled from the back, "Hey, did you just comp that guy's stuff?" "No," Morgan called, not flinching. "Paid for it myself." Lyle walked out annoyed. "You can't do that, we're not a soup kitchen." "It was $6, Lyle." $6 too much. You do that again, it's gonna come out of your check." Morgan didn't say anything. She picked up a roll of receipt paper and went to refill a printer. Shane's jaw clenched. He turned to Lyle casually. "She was just being kind, man." Lyle snorted. "You knew here or something?" "Yeah." "Then mind your register." Shane said nothing, but he knew what he saw and he wasn't going to let it go. Over the next 2 days, Shane kept a close eye. Morgan was always on time, worked through her breaks, and never once complained when Lyle dumped tasks on her last minute. One night, she stayed 20 minutes after closing, restocking shelves while Lyle was already out the door. Meanwhile, Lyle barely worked. He spent most of the shift scrolling on his phone, flirting with customers in ways that made them visibly uncomfortable, and barking at other workers. Shane saw it all. On the 3rd day, Morgan came in early again. Shane approached her while she was refilling the coffee station. "Hey," he said, "that guy the other night, you help people like that often?" She glanced at him, surprised. "Sometimes, when I can." "Why?" She hesitated, then shrugged. "I've been there." He didn't press, but the way she said it stuck. Later that day, during the evening rush, a woman with 2 kids came in. Her card declined 3 times. Morgan looked at the kids, then at the woman's flushed face, and without a word, she paid for their milk and cereal. again. Shane stepped outside after his shift and called the district manager. "I need you here tomorrow morning. Quiet, no warnings." "Is something wrong?" "Just come." He hung up. That night, Shane didn't sleep well, not because of Lyle but because of Morgan. The quiet strength, the way she gave without expecting anything back. He kept thinking, how many more like her are out there, unnoticed? And how many Lyles are getting away with it? He'd find out tomorrow. The district manager, Elise, arrived 15 minutes before opening. Shane met her just outside the store's side entrance, still dressed in his Kyle uniform. She narrowed her eyes at the faded hoodie and name tag. "You're not joking." Shane shook his head and opened the door without another word. Inside, the lights buzzed to life slowly. Morgan was already behind the register, counting the till with practiced precision. She glanced up, gave a nod, and went back to her task. "Who's that?" Elise said under her breath as they stepped into the back hallway. "Don't ask, just follow my lead." Lyle showed up 8 minutes late. When he walked in, he was eating a breakfast sandwich and wearing sunglasses, even though the sun hadn't fully risen. He didn't notice Elise standing near the employee lockers. "Morning," he called lazily. "Hope the new guy didn't screw up the drawer." Shane didn't answer. Lyle turned his head toward Elise, pulled off his sunglasses, and straightened up. "Oh, hi, didn't know we had company." "I'm here for an audit," Elise said coolly. "Random check, keep doing what you're doing." Shane walked to register 2 and logged in. He noticed the cooler near the coffee station was leaking again, a shallow puddle pooling near the tile grout. No one had cleaned it. He grabbed a mop. An hour passed. Then 2. Elise stayed in the back, quietly reviewing logs, payroll, and surveillance footage pulled from the last week. Shane continued working the register, keeping close watch on customer interactions. Morgan handled each guest with calm attention. Lyle remained planted in the office, occasionally barking orders through the open door. Around 10, a delivery driver wheeled in crates of bottled drinks. Shane offered to help unload them. The driver looked relieved. "Normally, gotta wait for the manager to show face," the man muttered. Shane carried 2 crates to the back room and found Elise standing by the open fridge door, clipboard in hand. "You seeing this?" she said, pointing to a row of expired yogurt cups. "Been like that for days," Shane replied. "No one's rotated inventory. Checked the back, there's fresh stock still in boxes." Payroll shows Morgan clocked 60 hours last week. Everyone else is under 35. Shane nodded once. Elise lowered her voice. "And the cameras caught at least 4 times she paid for customers' items. Out of pocket." Before Shane could respond, they heard Lyle's voice echo from the front of the store. "Hey, Morgan, you forgot to restock the vape cartridges again. What have you been doing all morning?" Morgan's voice was strained but steady. "I had to cover Kyle's register while he helped unload delivery." "So now you're making excuses for each other." Shane stepped out of the back room and walked toward the front with Elise close behind. Lyle stood near the counter, arms folded, clearly enjoying the power play. Shane kept his voice flat. "She's been working the floor nonstop since we opened." Lyle turned. "You don't run this place, Kyle. I do." Then Elise stepped forward. "No, you don't." Lyle looked confused for a second. "Wait, what?" Shane pulled his name tag off and set it on the counter. "My name's not Kyle, it's Shane, Shane Dorsey." Lyle's face drained. He looked between them, searching for some kind of joke. You're the owner." Shane didn't need to answer. Elise opened a folder and laid it on the counter. "These are the last 6 weeks' performance audits. You've consistently underperformed, left inventory unmanaged, and forced one employee to carry the weight of 3. Lyle opened his mouth, but Elise cut him off. You've taken extended breaks, falsified timesheets, and ignored repeated maintenance requests. Not to mention the way you speak to staff. I didn't. Elise, Shane said, not taking his eyes off Lyle. Does our company tolerate employees paying for customer products out of their own pocket? No, Elise replied. We don't expect it, but we don't punish it either, especially not when it comes from compassion. Shane leaned in slightly. I watched you threaten to dock her pay for being kind to someone who couldn't afford food. That's not just bad leadership. That's inhumane. Lyle's voice turned defensive. Look, I was trying to keep the books clean. I didn't want. You're done, Shane said. Effective immediately. What? Wait. Elise stepped forward and handed him a termination letter. You need to leave the premises. We'll mail your final check. Lyle looked stunned. He stared at Shane, then at Morgan, who had frozen at the register, still holding a receipt in one hand. Shane didn't look back as Lyle walked out, muttering under his breath. Once the door shut, silence settled over the store. Shane approached Morgan's register. I didn't mean to cause trouble, she said quietly. You didn't, Shane said. You've been holding this place together. She blinked, unsure how to respond. I'm not exaggerating, he continued. You're the only reason this store is still standing. She looked genuinely caught off guard. I just do what needs doing. Shane glanced around the store. A small line had begun to form again. Take your break, he said. Elise and I can cover for a bit. I'm fine, really. That wasn't a suggestion. Morgan hesitated, then nodded and stepped into the back room. Shane took over her register. Elise joined him, scanning items without a word. 20 minutes later, Morgan returned with her sleeves rolled up and a fresh energy in her step. Shane motioned her over. I'm assigning a new interim manager. Someone from the Butler location, solid reputation. Morgan nodded slowly. I want you to train them, Shane added. You know this store better than anyone. Her eyebrows lifted. Me, I'm not. You are, he cut in. Trust me. By late afternoon, the atmosphere had shifted. Shane and Elise walked the aisles, noting broken fixtures and outdated signage. Morgan moved confidently from register to cooler to stockroom, guiding the flow of the store like she'd been running it for years. Before closing time, Shane gathered the staff, just 4 employees total, near the back counter. He kept it brief. This place has been neglected. That ends today. Nobody said anything, but no one looked away either. Starting tomorrow, corporate's sending repair crews and a cleaning team. You'll have the support you've been missing. Your hours won't be cut. And if you've been doing more than your share, that ends too. One of the younger clerks, a part-time student named Jasmine, spoke up. Does that mean we're getting more help? Yes, Shane said, but it also means speaking up when something's wrong. Don't wait for someone else to fix it. The team dispersed. Morgan lingered. Why'd you come here in disguise? She asked. Because I forgot what it felt like to stand behind a counter, Shane replied. And I needed the truth, not a report. She nodded once. You got it. As they locked up for the night, Shane looked at the store, still rough around the edges, but no longer ignored. He knew there was still work to do, but now the right person was at the heart of it. And she had already proven what kind of leader she could be. The next morning, Shane arrived early, this time in his usual clothes: pressed shirt, dark jeans, brown boots, and no disguise. He walked through the front entrance of Store 8 with a quiet nod to Morgan, who was already restocking gum trays near the register. She gave a small, surprised glance at his now familiar face, but didn't say anything. She just kept working, same as always. Elise was there too. She'd stayed overnight in Pittsburgh to finalize the interim manager transfer. A clipboard was tucked under her arm as she scanned the floor and then the cooler, noting the warped shelving and flickering LED strips. The store wasn't broken in obvious ways, it was worn down by neglect. By 7:30, the interim manager arrived. His name was Drew, a tall, soft-spoken man from the Butler location. He had a calm presence and a habit of writing things down in a small black notebook before saying anything. Shane introduced him to Morgan and the others in the back office. Jasmine, the part-time student, nodded politely. The two other clerks, Louis and Andre, seemed cautiously optimistic, but mostly tired. None of them had taken a real break in days. Shane turned to the group. Drew's not here to take over everything. He's here to realign things. Morgan's going to walk him through how this store actually works. But if something doesn't make sense, speak up. Drew tilted his head toward Morgan. You've been keeping this place afloat, I hear. I've just been showing up, she said. Sometimes that's harder than it sounds. By mid-morning, a regional maintenance crew pulled into the lot. Two men in gray uniforms unloaded tools and ladder racks and got to work on the cooler leak and the ceiling vent near the coffee station. Elise ran point, coordinating between them and Shane without disrupting store flow. Shane didn't hover. He spent most of the day watching interactions from the sidelines, how customers responded, where the bottlenecks happened, who stepped in and who stepped back. Around lunchtime, a tall woman in her 40s walked in wearing a worn-out maroon jacket and carrying a clipboard. She had a practiced way of looking around like she wasn't seeing the shelves, but the system behind them. She made straight for the counter where Morgan stood. You Morgan Givens. Morgan studied her for half a second before answering. Yeah. The woman introduced herself as Tanya. I run our employee support and retention program. Shane flagged your name in the system. Didn't mention why, just said I should come talk to you in person. Morgan shrugged slightly. I'm not really the talking type. That's fine, I'm the listening type. Shane watched from a distance. He'd asked Tanya to stop by, but not to pitch anything, just to hear Morgan out. If Morgan wanted to stay a cashier, that was fine. But if she wanted more, the door had to be open. After about 20 minutes, Tanya circled back around and met Shane at the side of the store. She's got a grip on the floor, no question, but she's been running at full tilt for months. Her hands are raw, she's not sleeping enough, and she's convinced she's replaceable. She's not. I know that, you know that, but she doesn't believe it, not yet. Shane exhaled. What does she need? A timeline, not a promise, something real. She needs to know if she puts in more, it's going somewhere. I'll write it, but she decides if she signs it. Good. Tanya left after that. She didn't stay long, she never did. Her job wasn't to fix people. It was to make sure they weren't invisible. Around 2, a man entered the store wearing a construction vest and heavy boots. He headed to the back cooler, grabbed 2 sports drinks, and came to the counter. He leaned in close to Jasmine, who was covering register 1. You always this quiet? She gave a polite smile and started scanning his items. Come on, the man said. I've seen you in here before, you got a name. Shane was halfway across the store when he heard the tone shift. Jasmine's posture had changed tense, shoulder turned slightly inward. Morgan stepped in from behind the lottery stand. You need something else. The man looked at her, then back at Jasmine. I was just talking. Morgan didn't blink. Then you can keep talking on your way out. He frowned. I'm paying, aren't I? Drew arrived at the counter silently, standing between the man and Jasmine. We're asking you to leave. You're not welcome here after today. The man scoffed, dropped a 5 on the counter, and walked out slowly. Once the doors closed, Drew turned to Jasmine. You good? She nodded, but her eyes were still wide. Shane stepped over. You did the right thing, both of you. Morgan started restocking the gum tray again, same as she had that morning. She didn't say anything, but her movements were sharper, now tight, controlled. Shane didn't push. He knew exactly what that kind of silence meant. It meant someone had been through this before. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck arrived with stock for the back shelves. Drew and Lewis handled the intake. Shane made a point of following Morgan into the storeroom without warning. "I need to ask you something," he said. She paused, holding a box of canned fruit. "Okay. You ever think about running your own store?" Morgan looked at him, but not like she was flattered. It was more cautious than that. "Is that why Tanya was here?" "No, she was here because I don't want to lose you. But this," he gestured to the storeroom, "isn't the only place you belong." "I don't want a desk job." "It's not, it's leadership. Field level, you'd still be on the floor." She hesitated. "I don't know how to manage people." "You already are, you just don't have the title yet." Morgan set the box down. "What if I mess it up?" "You already cleaned up someone else's mess without backup. That tells me you'd protect the people under you because you've been them." Morgan didn't answer right away. She just leaned against the shelf, arms crossed, thinking. Shane waited. Finally, she said, "If I say yes, what happens to Drew?" "He goes back to Butler in 2 weeks. That's the plan, but only if you want this." "And if I don't?" "Then we find someone else. No pressure, no consequences. You keep doing what you're doing." She nodded once. "Let me think on it." "Take your time." That evening, as the last customers filtered out, Shane stayed behind with Elise, reviewing updated floor plans for repairs. The maintenance team had patched the cooler seal and replaced the flickering light. It wasn't perfect, but it was progress. Before he left, Shane walked over to Morgan, who was wiping down the register. "You've got backup now, don't carry it all alone." "I'm not used to backup," she said. "You will be." She didn't smile, but she didn't look away either. That was enough for now. Outside, the sky had turned rose-gray, and the parking lot lights flickered on. Shane stood by his truck a moment longer than usual. He hadn't fixed everything, not yet. But for the first time in months, Store 8 felt alive again. And that wasn't because of any corporate memo. It was because one woman had quietly refused to let it fall apart. By the following Monday, the changes had begun to settle in, but the effects weren't instant. The store still felt like it was recovering from a long stretch of neglect. The repair crews had done what they could, but Morgan's hands still bore the signs of months of strain, thin cracks near her knuckles, a bandage on her right thumb, and a stiffness in how she lifted heavier crates. Shane noticed, but didn't comment. Not yet. Drew had taken to shadowing her closely, not to supervise, but to learn. He asked quiet, specific questions. How she prioritized shelf reorders, when she flagged items as non-rotating. The cadence of customer flow during shift transitions. She answered everything with minimal commentary, but never brushed him off. It was clear she respected his curiosity, and he respected her experience. On Tuesday afternoon, a new hire arrived. A young man named Devin, barely out of high school, assigned as part-time floor support. Elise had fast-tracked the recruitment from another store 2 towns over. His schedule would overlap with Morgan's most often, and Shane wanted to see how he adjusted. By the second hour of his first shift, Morgan had already shown him how to clock in, how to track short date items, and where they kept the backup card reader when the main one lagged. "You pick things up fast," she said after showing him how to log a refrigeration issue. Devin smiled, a little unsure. "I just don't want to mess up." "Messing up's not the problem. Not learning from it is." He nodded, clearly taking it seriously. Shane arrived later that afternoon, not to check but to observe. He stayed near the back office, pretending to review shipment logs. Elise was off-site, handling a staffing issue at Store 13, so it was just Drew and the team. At around 4, a man in a navy blazer walked in. Tall, with a fixed jaw and a Bluetooth headset still clipped to his collar. He moved fast, grabbing a pre-packaged salad, a protein bar, and a bottled tea. At the counter, he looked directly at Morgan. "You the manager?" She motioned toward Drew. "He's the acting manager." The man barely glanced at Drew. "I've been calling this store for 4 days. No one picks up. Your gas pump ate my card last week. Said transaction failed and then charged me twice." "Do you have the receipt?" Drew asked. "No, I tossed it." "Do you remember the date and time?" "Thursday, around 6. Morgan tapped into the digital transaction history from her register. She pulled up the evening logs, then activated the side terminal to cross-reference it with the pump data. While she worked, the man sighed, tapping his foot. "Every one of your stores runs different. Some are sharp, then you get places like this." Morgan didn't look up. "Found it. 2 transactions, both processed. 1 reversed within 24 hours. Your bank should have released the hold." "My bank says it's still pending." "Sometimes it depends on how fast your bank clears their batch. We can't control that." The man narrowed his eyes. "You always this defensive?" Drew stepped in, voice measured. "She's explaining the process, sir." "Asked her, not you." Morgan finally looked up. "You're welcome to call customer care. They can issue a formal dispute." "I don't want a call center. I want someone who knows what they're doing." Morgan handed him a printed transaction log. "This proves the reversal. Take it to your bank, they'll process the release." The man didn't take it. "You know, if you're going to work in customer service, maybe try acting like you want the job." Shane stepped out from behind the office divider. "She does. That's why she's still standing here." The man blinked. "Who are you?" "The reason she's still standing here." "Is this how your company treats people with legitimate complaints?" Shane's tone stayed flat. "She gave you the record, the timeline, and the contact path. If you want a refund that's not owed, that's not a complaint, it's a demand." "I'll go over your head." "Good luck." The man stared for a beat, then muttered something and walked out. Morgan exhaled slowly. Drew gave her a quick glance. "You good?" "I'm fine." Shane didn't speak until the man was gone. Then he turned to Morgan. "You didn't need me to step in, did you?" "No." "I figured, but I didn't like how that felt." "Neither did I," she said simply. That night after closing, Shane called Elise. "I want her in the leadership program." "She's not going to accept it unless it's on her terms." "I know, that's why we're not offering it like a promotion. We're offering it like a partnership." By Thursday, Tanya had drafted a flexible development track part-time training modules, field shadowing, and hands-on mentoring with managers from other districts. Not a desk job, not a fast track. Something built around Morgan's rhythm. Shane handed her the folder himself. "You can start whenever you want, or not at all, but if you do, it's yours." She opened it, scanned a few pages, then closed it again. "I'll read it, but I'm gonna ask a lot of questions." "Good, that's how you're supposed to start." That same afternoon, Jasmine pulled Shane aside near the soda fountain. "I don't want to stay part-time forever." He nodded. "What's stopping you?" "I didn't think anyone noticed me before last week." "You were working next to someone who made sure you weren't invisible. That matters." "I want to learn more, not just cashiering, ordering, inventory, all of it." "We'll get you started." They shook hands, nothing formal yet but real. Later that week, Shane returned to his home office in Columbus. Store 8 wasn't perfect yet. Their floor wax was still overdue. The lighting in the back freezer flickered every 10th second, but Morgan had started taking 10-minute breaks again. Drew had stopped carrying his notebook, he didn't need it anymore. And Devin, the new hire, had started cracking quiet jokes that actually landed. Shane read one final report from Elise before shutting down for the night. Under the store morale section, she'd written one word: recovering. Not fixed, not flawless, but recovering. He glanced at the picture on his desk, an old photo of him behind the counter at his very first store, 20 years younger, counting scratch-off inventory by hand. He'd almost forgotten what it felt like to stand on that side of the register. Now he didn't have to. Because people like Morgan reminded him some truths don't come through reports. They come through action, through grit, through quiet decency that refuses to quit even when no one's watching. And because of that, Store 8 had a future again. Not because he walked in as the boss, but because someone else had already been leading from the floor.